When you think about history, are there lots of old guys wearing wigs and stockings? When you think about history, is Napoleon really short? And folks have wooden teeth. Do you know that history can be the most incredible, amazing stories for you and me? Sit back and listen to a story right now. It's honest, it's fun, and it's sure to.
Hi, young historians. Welcome to another episode of Anytime Now. I'm Brooke, co-founder of Honest History. Are you as excited about this episode as I am? I sure hope so. We're about to dive into another story-filled adventure and learn something new. And remember, by learning more about the past, you can make a positive impact on the future. So pack your bags and let's go.
You probably have or have had a pet, right? Perhaps your pet is even sitting with you now as you listen. Whether it's a dog, a cat, a hamster, or a bird, these animals become a part of the family. But do you remember what it's like to name a pet? It's a serious responsibility. How will the personality of a puppy differ if it's named Zeus or if it's named Pipsqueak? Just like how your name is important, so too is the name of your chinchilla or your iguana, or your raven. You see, there's a raven right now, as I speak, that lives at the Tower of London, and its name is Grip II. And if the second didn't give it away, you should know that it's not the first Grip, but it's also not the second, or the third. This is the story of a long line of ravens named Grip, beginning with someone you may already know, Charles Dickens. Let's go back to Victorian England, 1840, right in the heart of London, 1 Devonshire Terrace in Marylebone to be exact. Here you will find a big brick house with a large garden, quite a nice place to live. Today it no longer exists, but in 1840, the year of our visit, it was a home, and within you'll find Charles Dickens. Now Charles Dickens is known for a great many things. Many consider him to be one of the greatest novelists to have ever lived. He wrote many books you've likely heard of, with iconic lines you might have heard of and characters you've probably heard of too. Do the names Oliver Twist or Ebenezer Scrooge sound familiar? Both of these characters are from the mind of Dickens. How about the line, "It was the best of times, it was the worst of times"? That was Dickens too. But aside from his literary heroics, Dickens was known for some other things too. One such thing was having an honest-to-goodness zoo in his home at all times. Dickens loved animals, and surrounded himself with as many animals as he could find. And not just dogs or cats either, but eagles and exotic birds like Dick the Canary. And just like Dickens himself, these animals had such personalities. Bob the cat, for instance, used to snuff out Dickens' reading light to get his attention. And all the wonderful pets in Dickens' actual life inspired him to create some pretty memorable fictional animals as well, such as Bullseye the cat from Oliver Twist. Yet for all the animals that Dickens owned and wrote, one animal survived, and survived, and survived, unlike any other. A raven named Grip. Back to 1 Devonshire Terrace. On this very day in 1840, Charles Dickens is sitting in his study, thinking through his latest work in progress, Barnaby Rudge. In Barnaby Rudge, there is a raven named Grip, a raven that Dickens has been preparing to write for a good year or more now, seeing as how it was just about a year ago from this day that he acquired his first pet raven. And he named it Grip. Hatched in 1839, Grip the Raven was the first Grip of many, but at the time, Dickens knew no greater a companion. In between bouts of planning the story of Barnaby Rudge and enjoying the company of his own pet Grip, Dickens wrote to a friend,
"I love nobody here but the Raven, and I only love him because he seems to have no feeling in common with anybody."
And just as Dickens signed off the letter, folding it and preparing it for the post, he heard a clatter from the kitchen. No doubt Grip and Bob the cat were having a fierce game of tag around the table, although most times Bob participated in these games rather unwillingly. "Helloa, old girl," he heard a voice call from the kitchen. Dickens was home alone, but he knew better than to be scared by that voice. It was the voice of Grip, and his favorite line to boot. He'd been saying it since the day he arrived at the Dickens home. Dickens smiled to himself, knowing that Grip was about the house, up to whatever he was up to. Most likely shenanigans, but as long as he didn't break anything. Dickens got back to writing Barnaby Rudge, looking for excuses to work Grip into the story more and more. While writing, Dickens lost track of time, and it wasn't until he snapped out of his groove that he noticed the silence around the house. Voices and pattering footsteps never spooked Dickens, but silence did. Neither Bob the cat nor Grip were known for prolonged silences, and the suspicion became too great to ignore.
I wonder what he's doing,
Dickens said, all the while pondering just how exactly he was going to get any writing done when this raven was so darn entertaining. He went to the kitchen just as the back door shut. Bob the cat sat on a kitchen chair, cleaning himself. Grip, however, was nowhere to be seen.
Well, if he isn't biting the children's ankles,
Dickens muttered to himself, registering again that the children were at school or otherwise occupied.
And if he isn't riding the horse,
He puzzled that the only way to find out was to go to the scene of the supposed crime. So he followed the trail out of the back door to the garden, and there he found Grip, halfway into a dirt hole. Grip poked his head up from the hole. "Helloa, old girl," he called, before turning back to his business, whatever that business was.
hello yourself.
Dickens said.
What are you doing?
Dickens approached as Grip finished kicking dirt over his prize, then popped out of the hole and galloped about the treasure trove that Dickens had never noticed until this moment. He fetched his shovel from the shed and dug into the raven's handiwork. "Keep your spirits up," Grip said. "Keep your spirits up." He galloped around the deepening hole, plucking up worms and swallowing them whole, then laughing. In the blade of the shovel, Dickens uncovered fresh cheese that he recognized from his own pantry. It was an aged cheddar, his favorite, and Grip knew it was his favorite too. He had told him many a time.
Of all the cheese, Grip,
Dickens said.
Hi friends, are you enjoying today's episode? I'd like to take a quick break from the story to tell you about another great place to learn about the past. Honest History creates magazines and books for kids that are filled with fun stories and activities that bring history to life. From pirates to spies to great inventions and so much more, you'll learn about interesting people, places, and events from around the world that made history. Created for kids ages 6 through 12, you can sign up and receive new adventures delivered straight to your doorstep every quarter. Just visit honesthistory.co. That's honesthistory.co to sign up today. Oh, and here's a special offer for our podcast listeners. Use code ANYTIMENOW for 10% off. Again, that special code is ANYTIMENOW. Okay, let's get back to the story.
"Helloa, old girl," Grip said, still galloping. But the treasure trove wasn't fully excavated. Just next to where the cheese had been, he found the spoiled remains of dog food that once belonged to the family in Newfoundland.
Oh, no wonder she's been so hungry,
Dickens muttered. "Keep your spirits up," Grip repeated. Beyond the cheese and the rancid dog food, Dickens also found a whole mess of raw potatoes that had gone missing just a few days ago, a paintbrush that Dickens' wife Catherine had been missing for weeks, and, most peculiar of all, a carpentry hammer that the carpenter down the street had put out a reward for since it went missing.
I've been robbed!
The carpenter had barked from outside his shop. Robbed indeed, Dickens thought, by Grip no less.
You must mind your manners, Grip,
Dickens said, but he'd been so preoccupied that he missed the departure of Grip, who was presently peeling paint off the siding of the shed and gobbling it down like potato crisps. "Helloa, old girl," she called, then cackled to herself.
Not the paint, Grip, you'll make yourself sick.
Dickens hustled to the shed, but the recent peeling, roughly the size of a potato itself, had already been removed, matching the shed's spackled aura. By Dickens' estimation, Grip had to have eaten nearly 3 times his size in dried paint in the year he'd been here.
And where's he off to now?
Dickens could hear the cackle of Grip, this time coming from inside the shed. He made his way inside and found his favorite pet nestling in atop his horse, preparing for an afternoon nap.
Well, good night then,
Dickens said, smiling to himself. "Helloa, old girl," Grip said under his breath. There were 2 things Dickens did every day. The first, write, or at the very least, think about writing. The second, tend to his animals. Sadly for Charles Dickens, though perhaps not so sadly for various other members of the household, Grip died in 1841 due to eating too much paint. Dickens, refusing to let Grip go, had his favorite bird taxidermized. That way, he could be a part of the family forever from the mantle. And to liven things up, he acquired another raven, which he also named Grip. He also got an eagle, just because. This Grip, however, was not like the previous Grip. By Dickens' standards, this new Grip was not very smart, and as Dickens' daughter Mary described him, impudent and dumb. This Grip, too, did not live very long, but that didn't faze Dickens, who acquired a third raven, this one also named Grip. This third Grip, however, was something of a bully, even bossing around Turk, the Dickens family guard dog. Grip would steal poor Turk's food. That makes the count of Grip 3 if you count all of Dickens' pets, and it's 4 if you add in the raven in his novel Barnaby Rudge, and that's just in Dickens' immediate circle. Grip also inspired the poet Edgar Allan Poe to write his famous poem, The Raven. That's 5 whole Grips in less than 30 years. You may be wondering what all these Grips have to do with anything even remotely related to the modern day. After all, Charles Dickens died in 1870, his taxidermized Grip, the original Grip, or OG if you will, was auctioned off to the Free Museum in Philadelphia, and without Dickens, surely that meant there would be no more Grips, right? Wrong. Taking up the charge that Dickens had taken upon himself, the Tower of London, once a prison, a palace, and so much more, had been housing an unkindness of ravens since even before Dickens. 200 years before Dickens, in fact. A group of ravens, if you didn't know, is called an unkindness of ravens. And tracing back to around Dickens' death, some of the tower's ravens were named Grip, perhaps as an homage to Dickens. It was just a matter of time before the new Grips started making trouble. In 1940, during World War II, the Tower of London was bombed by the German Air Force. Amidst the chaos, there was very little to be done for the ravens of the tower, and all were thought to be lost. But then Grip emerged, along with his partner Mabel, and as the only 2 ravens remaining, they decided they'd be the king and queen of the tower. Not more than 4 years later, Grip had decided that his kingdom just wasn't enough, and that he actually preferred retirement. So at the age of 17, he up and disappeared. No one knows where he went. Plenty of other Grips are known to have passed through the tower. One Grip lost a battle with a fox, but he was quickly replaced with a new Grip in true Dickens fashion. Then came the most recent Grip, better known as Grip 2. Replacing the previous Grip, who died prematurely, the new Grip II is unlike his predecessors. Quiet, shy, and prone to being bullied, the former raven keeper of the tower, Charles Scaife, has a soft spot for Grip II because of his timidness. A timidness that would be quite unfamiliar to Charles Dickens and to his daughter Mary, to his son Henry, to his dogs, particularly poor Turk, and to his cat Bob, too. But regardless of how he acts, Grip II is a Grip just like every Grip before him. And Grip II may have more in common with the original Grip than he thinks. Because while Charles Dickens referred to his dear raven as a he, it was discovered much later that Grip was in fact a she. You see, male and female ravens are difficult to tell apart. There are no defined size or personality differences. Much like that original Grip, Grip II, living in the Tower of London today, may well be a girl as well.
Welcome back! What did you think of today's adventure? We hope you learned something new. Be sure to share the story with your friends and family, and use what you've learned today to go out there and make a positive impact on history yourself. That's all for now, but if you want to learn more about important and amazing stories from the past, be sure to subscribe to Honest History Magazine, where you'll discover stories from around the world. Thanks for listening! This episode was written and narrated by Josh Sippie. Production was led by Robot Pirate Media. To learn more about Honest History, visit us at honesthistory.co and follow along for updates on social media.